hop this off. Welcome to Coaches Connect this week. Charlie, where are you at? What are you working on this week?
Um, I signed up to like a monthly mentorship thing at the start of the month. So there's like an online platform, and I've been kind of going through some of their resources just to help me shape my delivery, I suppose. I announced that I was going to be taking on clients and then subsequently realized that I wasn't really that confident in not confident, but I wasn't even that sure of what I was offering. Um, So it's kind of helping me refine my niche, I suppose, and the process of, onboarding people and um, delivering from there. What I want everything to look like, I suppose.
Awesome. Sounds like Mike's email collective. I hope that's
Yeah, it's a bit like that. I've been listening to his podcast, but yeah, I think it's a similar thing, but
cool.
maybe more UK based.
Fantastic. All right. Thanks for the update. James, what about you? Where are you at this week? How are you showing up and what are you working on? Hey, Dana.
Hey, this is my first time here. Um, I don't know how I found this, but I found it somewhere in the PN Academy and here I am. So I work for a women's weight loss company. I've worked there since 2021 and I did L1 in like 2014, 2015, L2 in 2019, and took a little break there from coaching and then came back to it. So I'm going through some of these mini courses in the PN Academy to like just kind of like refresh my memory on change psychology, stuff of that nature. So I'm finding it very uh, informative because if you don't use it, you lose it, right?
Yeah.
And it's good to go through the content again. But I ramped up my client base recently, and it just reminds me that there's nothing better than actually coaching people to
Yeah.
sharpen your skills. Like it is I can just see my skills improving with every client that I add and every check-in that I do. So, yeah, that's where I'm at, and just here to connect and meet new people.
Awesome. Thanks, James. And it's also really cool to hear from someone who kind of has taken a break and then has come back because the health and wellness industry is one of those that has quite the turnover. So a lot of folks who leave, they don't come back. So it's such a pleasure that you did.
I like it so much more this time around. I'm like in a different place mentally, and
Yeah.
like I'm really into it in a way that I never was before. So it's been good.
Amazing. Welcome back.
Thanks.
Dana, what about you? Where are you at? How are you showing up today? And what are you
Hi,
working
I'm showing up. I'm good. I actually signed through my building again. I have new clients that I'm just starting with next, like on Sunday. Um I guess oh thanks. I guess my question is, or like it's a couple actually. I signed up for one, like one person reached out to me, and then when we finally talked, she was like, my husband's here and we both want to do it. So I kind of gave them like a two for one because I really just want to practice. Yeah, my goal is to be practicing. I've been reading motivational interviewing for nutrition and fitness. I signed up for PN level 2, which is starting this week. So yeah, I'm kind of like, how do I coach a couple? I can definitely see that getting a little bit muddy, I guess. And there's a part of me that's like, do I ask them how they want to, if they want to be coached together, or do I, as the coach, be like, we're gonna do this separately, So that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, I'm nervous, but I did a 6 week one this time. They're older. One of them, the husband is like 81. The other one is postmenopausal. The wife is postmenopausal, and they just want to like they want to lose weight is their thing. But I think they really just want to, like, he used to be able to walk a lot more, and now he's not walking as much, and whatever. So, I think it'll be good practice. The motivational interviewing stuff is really helping me in terms of like knowing, or like thinking about how to navigate like asking questions, but you know, it's a fine line sometimes between like, sometimes I think people come to coaches because they don't know what to do. And so I think, you know, that's a fine line of being like, okay, tell me what you want to do. And they're like, well, that's why I came to you. So, yeah, I'll stop
With
talking.
with coaching the couple, can we agree or establish the fact that the cost is not really a factor here in terms of what they're paying or not paying, because
Yes.
you do want to get the reps in?
Yes.
So the time that you're going to spend coaching these people is
Right.
whatever the time is, because you want to maximize your exposure and experience as a coach.
Correct.
Can we agree on that?
Yes.
And the reason I wanted to establish that is because if your kind of goal is building up a one-on-one practice, I probably would coach them separately
Right.
as two individual people, unless you specifically wanted the practice of coaching a couple. There
Right.
are coaches who coach couples, right? And that just kind of is a niche in itself. I would argue it's a very different set of skills, just because you are now kind of coaching three people. You're coaching him, her, and the entity that is their relationship. Right? Like any couples therapist will tell you that the client is not the client is the relationship, and the relationship here is going to be the entity in the room, because they have like a pre-existing dynamic. So
Right.
unless you're going into it with your eyes open, like, yay, I want to practice coaching couples, right? Which is a very different animal, I would probably suggest coaching them separately, knowing fully well that they will share a home environment, right? But I think that will also just create easier rapport with each of the people. And you notice that's why I wanted to establish the amount of time you spend on coaching is not really a factor here, because
Right.
you obviously would be spending more time coaching them separately, but
Right.
because this is kind of for practice. That's probably how I would approach this. And I want to say high five on level 2. That's going to be exciting to kick that off, also with a couple of clients in your pocket to practice. How does this feel? Like how does this approach land, that just in terms of how you're going to approach these folks as clients?
Yeah, it feels fine. I mean, we have our first, since they live like in the building complex, they wanted to meet in person. So we're meeting on Sunday, like at 4. And I guess I guess now I'm thinking, you know, I should write to them and say, I'll meet with one of you at 4 and maybe the next one at 5. Like, I guess I'm kind of trying to figure out the logistics of how to, yeah,
It
how.
sounds like maybe the kickoff meeting might be okay with all three of you. But
Right,
this is the part where, as a coach, you can actually just voice your approach, right? Like
right,
you can kind of say, like, hey, like I know I am coaching both of you, but I am coaching two of you as two individual people. So
right,
going forward, here's how we're going to do things. And this is where you kind of lead the way a little bit. And I'm
right,
with you in terms of straddling that line between kind of like telling people what to do, uh, and asking them what they want to do, because
mhm,
that is a fine line in a sense, especially in the beginning. It
mhm,
can be very off-putting to hire someone and have a whole lot of like, well, what do you want to do, how do you want to approach it, right? Because we can play with that a bit more once we've established rapport, and where you as my client feel held, like where you feel enough of a structure to hold you. In the very beginning, it's all completely open. So Dana, imagine if I were coaching you, right? And like all we're doing is like, so Dana, what do you want to do? What do you want to work on? What do you, and it's like, well, I don't know where to go. That's part of the reason why we're working together. So even with things like, hey, here's how this is gonna go, is a
right,
bit about taking the reins so people know who is leading the meeting, so to speak. And you know,
right,
in this meeting here, this is a very collegial space. This is very much a peer space. And at the same time, when all of you show up, someone has to take the reins a little bit, right? And say, well, hey, Charlie, why don't you kick us off with an update? Dana, how are you showing up, right? Like, so there is that little bit of a facilitation that is
Mhm.
happening. And so folks who are coming hopefully can feel that, right? It's like, okay, got it. Kate got it. She's driving, right? Like we're here, we're heading to a destination. I'm gonna get some work done, but we have a driver.
Right. Yeah, I think that's what happened with my last client, which I just had the one, but I think that I was maybe deferring to her, like I was just learning, right? So I was just kind of like, well, what do what's your idea? She's like, I don't know, like like, and I think maybe wasn't like the fit really. I mean, she was also leading and like had her own ideas of what she wanted to do. So I was kind of just letting her, but it was then like, yeah, it's that fine line of like, she's the expert of her own life, obviously, but then like, she wants help, people want help. So yeah,
And I think so. Anna is pointing at that a little bit in the comments because she's asking, like, well, what if they envisioned couples coaching? Right. And
right,
that is a great question. Maybe they did envision couples coaching, but that is then up to Dana to kind of consider that because if that's what they envisioned, is this what you're ready, able, and willing to provide?
right,
I've been coaching for a long time. If I started coaching a couple and they had an idea of meeting together, I'm not doing it. I'm not
Right.
doing it because I don't feel equipped to do it. Like
right,
that to me sounds like a whole lot of couples counseling, which I don't want to do, and I don't know how to do. So I just don't know that I would serve them well in that context, and that's what I would need to communicate, but to them. And if that becomes a breaking point where they're kind of saying, well, yeah, no, we don't want to do that. We wanted to do this together thing. Maybe that's not a good fit. Or maybe you yield and agree and provide this couples coaching thing anyway.
right,
And it might go okay. It might go terribly wrong. Either
right,
way, you're going to learn a lot, right? So this is
totally,
like, I also want to highlight, like, there isn't really going to be like a super worst case scenario here, because
right,
even if you maybe don't feel confident enough in the moment to say no, right? Like if that's what they want, and you're like, shh, I feel like I kind of have to do this now.
right,
That's also okay. It's going to work out. You might hate
right.
it, right? Or you might love it, and maybe you're niching down to coaching couples next thing we know.
Yeah. Hey, you never know. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Anna, go ahead. You have your hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to share. I used to teach Pilates at a studio locally here, and I was covering for one of the other instructors who had been working with a couple for a long time. I had never worked with a couple in my life, and I thought, okay, here we go. Basically the same question. What's this going to look like? And they were so close, the two of them, that all I had to do was listen to them and bring them together. And for us, it was really beautiful. I ended up getting to coach them on Valentine's Day, and I had them standing on the reformers and holding hands, and there was this trust moment, and it was just extraordinary. So I'm glad that I seized the opportunity, and never would have expected that things would go well. But I think it all depends on what that relationship looks like. So if they're in sync and in step and in flow and can communicate to you, that's a big difference than two people who are like, she's fat, he's fat, I don't know, whatever else is going on. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not liking the weight around the middle over there or whatever. Like, if they're in each other's garbage can, it's going to be a disaster, probably. Yes. Or it'll be
Totally. And
tough not to navigate
I'm
it.
so glad that worked out for you. That sounds like a beautiful interaction. I think where my mind goes here, and this is a tough one, is that just because we can do something doesn't necessarily mean we should.
Mhm.
Uh, and just because we could be really good at something also doesn't mean we should. And those are often the hardest lines to draw, hardest boundaries to establish, and hardest no's to say, like to to actually utter. And I don't know why I'm thinking of this example, but it's been years ago now when I finally decided to stop teaching yoga. I was heartbroken. I was really, really sad about that decision, but I knew it was the right decision. I've been doing it for a long time. I was very good at it and I enjoyed it. Wow. Those three things make it very difficult to say no, right? Like, why on earth? Because it wasn't what I was focusing on. It was taking time away from other priorities, and I needed to say no so I could say yes to the things I was focusing on, right? And that comes up again and again. I just talked about it in a Instagram post the other day, where the art and the skill of subtracting comes into place. You're going to add something, you're going to grow something, you're going to learn something, you're going to lean into something. Great. What are you going to take away? What are you going to subtract? Nothing. I love everything. It's like, well, it doesn't really work that way, right? And those are that's a fantastic place to be when somebody says, oh, no, I love all these things in my life. That's a tough one. But nevertheless, we still kind of focus and narrow, or we don't. Somebody says, you either win or you learn. We don't, and we might learn some lessons along the way. We don't have capacity, time, or energy to dig deep enough in any one well, right? And we kind of end up doing lots of things, and feel like we're torn in many different directions. I don't know if anyone has ever felt this feeling. As a mom of young children, I feel that feeling a lot, is when you're just sort of mediocre at everything. Like you're just a solid 5 out of 10 on a whole lot of things, right? Like you guys should see the floor of my kitchen right now, very mediocre housekeeper right about now. Right. And I don't like that. So that's where I find that when I say no, even to the things that I enjoy, good at, it just helps me be better at the things that remain. Anna, thank you so much for sharing that. The Valentine's interaction, especially, that feels truly special. Who else? Who wants to pop in with an update of what they're working in? Michael, you were here. I'm picking on you. Hi.
Hi, good to see you again.
See ya.
Yeah, so I signed up for level 2, so I'm super excited. I'll see you there, Dana. I'm most excited just about the community because I've got nothing but positive vibes, as well as experience from everyone I've talked to about it. So my big thing personally is that I'm still just taking everything I'm learning and using it, in my own routines. And I'm really excited because I think now that I think I spoke with you about nutritional levels 1, 2, and 3, and how that kind of chart and the description of those, how it really made sense to me and made me understand what I always thought of when I watched sports games, basketball, football, whatever, and seeing these athletes that I idolize, and where do I fit in as far as that kind of level. And I've always dipped into level 2, but the nutrition has always been a huge hole for me, a huge gap. I've always been high protein, high fiber, but as far as veggies and all the other stuff that's important, I've really locked in since the holidays, and it's kind of changed my life. And I'm very excited about not just looking better and being in the best shape of my life, but my parents have both passed away, and they passed away pretty young, and 50s, if you will, and early 60s, and I just don't want that for myself. And I think incorporating all of these healthy choices gives me a chance to say no to that for my future.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Michael. And I think that feeling of being in the best shape of your life, right? Because I think especially once you are in the health coaching space, there can be a lot of external pressure to now practice health forever, in order to not sure what, right? But like there's the perceived pressure of like I must eat certain way, move certain way, look certain way. And I really like to zoom out, way the hell out, and think instead, but am I living the life that I want to live? Like, am I actually enjoying my body? To go from, I'm out of shape, I'm overweight, I feel out of breath, right? And now I'm not. Like now I feel like I can hop up and do a thing, or I can like run across the airport with carry-on in hand because my plane is late and actually make it and not die, right? Like it's those moments where like, this is it. Like I want to be able to do that. Right? Like that's however long it lasts, because I think this is another thing that we often either forget or don't want to admit. Health is not 100% in our control. There are a lot of factors that are, and we want to maximize those.
No, I do.
A lot of factors that are, we want to maximize those factors and we want to enjoy ourselves while we're there. But, and you were saying like, I don't want to be one of my parents. I don't want to die young. Not to be morbid, I could get hit by a truck tomorrow and then I'm going to die pretty young, but I would like to have enjoyed the time up until then, right? Like however long we get, and then we can put those behaviors and practices in place that can just help us have like a really good time while we're here.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also like, that cliche joke of like 30s, 40s, oh, like lower back pain and knee pain and all that stuff. But because, especially since the pandemic, so many of us have sat on our butt and watched Netflix, I still do it, but to balance it all out, there's no reason to feel old at my age or any of our ages. It's because we're not active enough and we're not doing the food right and going to the gym and working out for 30, 60 minutes a day consistently, 5 days a week, whatever it is, to balance all that stuff out and still live your life.
Well, I think the feel old is such a great like thing that I'm about to sink my teeth in. Like I just like feel myself salivating as I'm about to sink my teeth into this one. It's very similar to feel fat, isn't it? Because it's not really a feeling. So this would be such a great thing to explore with a client. If somebody said like, I just feel old, like what does that mean that you feel old? Because that's not really a thing, regardless of how old you are. Like if you're 75, I could put you in a room with a bunch of 90-year-olds and you're going to be the youngest person there, right? Like, so it's always going to be relative. So when we say I feel old, we usually are referring to some very specific outcomes that we've been observing. My back used to not hurt when I woke up in the morning, and now it does. And I feel old, right? My face didn't have wrinkles before, and now it does. And now I feel old, and I'm making it like mean a certain thing, right? Like the feel old is an interesting one, because I found myself, I was thinking about it this morning. You guys are on a receiving end of a soapbox. You ready? I found myself at a table a few weeks ago, surrounded by folks that were like 10, 15, 20 years my junior. And I'm in my early 40s. So, and age came up and people were like exchanging ages. They're like, oh, I'm like 21, I'm like 24, I'm 30. And I said, I'm 41. And there were some folks there that kind of went and was like, oh, really? You're 41? You don't look 41. You totally don't look 41. And it was such a strange experience to be on the receiving end of, because it felt like people were really convincing me that I don't look like the thing that I am, which I am 41. So the fact that I don't look it kind of is pretty irrelevant, right? Like it only is relevant if we are looking at the assumptions underneath, right? It's reminding me, like, again, in the health and wellness space, wow, you don't look like you had children. But I did have children. So like, what are we actually commenting on, right? Like this is the part where like we start peeling the layers off, like where I feel old, I feel fat, I feel whatever it is, I feel blah. And was like, what is underneath? More often than not, it's this very, very concrete thing that is a change. And then we observe the change, and then we make the change mean a thing, which it may or may not mean. Probably doesn't have to mean that at all. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Who else wants to pop in? What do you have on your mind? What are you working on?
No,
Daniel.
I will use the time if I can.
Hey.
Hello, nice to see you again. Anyway, so what I've been thinking about mostly is past the few days, one of my challenging clients, and maybe just found some ideas around here. So this is, from my terms, like a very resistant client. I brought her in previous sessions, but probably not with you. So she's a cancer survivor, 2 young boys, running a business, having a side gig, a lot of pains and aches because of the medication and probably also due to stress, and very sedentary lifestyle. So also her goal is to lose weight because of the health. So we reframed these goals from like I want to lose weight to, let's say, feel better in my body or to be skinny or whatever, to actually one thing that I loved what she wrote the other day was, I want to feel strong and capable. So I see this as a big mindset shift over the month. And she is also the kind of person who has like very low self-compassion, very high self-criticism. And that prevents her from recognizing these, let's say, small wins, which makes her behavior all or nothing, and all never happens. Nothing then always happens. So that leads to frustration. So there's like the downward spiral. What I've been thinking is I gave her some, or we talked about some things like exercising, let's say 2 to 3 times a week, like strength training, and trying to do some easy movement during the day, so walks or something like that. There was also an option that, okay, maybe you don't do like 30-minute or 40 or 60-minute exercise session, but maybe like 10 minutes besides the bed or whatever, early in the morning and so on. So that's more like, well, more often than not, it's not happening, right? And that's like, that leads to that frustration. Okay, why do I even try? On the nutrition side, we started with protein, so she's pretty consistent with protein. She eats very clean. She, again, like tracks everything or nothing. So it's like there is no middle ground in that sense. But what I see the biggest room for improvement is emotional regulation. So working on the emotions and being more compassionate towards herself, and also working on that inner side. That's of course not something that she's very inclined to do.
So
because
tell us
that,
where, because we have a good grasp on the client, I think, and I do trust that she's in very capable hands. Where are you stuck, or not necessarily stuck, where you could just use a little bit of assistance with or brainstorming?
Yeah, so I'm thinking, because I'm mentally preparing for the next session. So we skipped like 2 coaching calls, and we had some chat exchange. I don't like the chat exchange in that case because it's usually like, it's very separate time frame. And it's like we start discussing one thing, it jumps to completely something another. It's, from my perspective, very ineffective. So we should have a call this Friday. What personally is frustrating to me, and I know that this also affects the client and so on, is like I showed her these dials, so the progression, right, on the movement side. And this was just today. I was like, okay, so before our call or until our call, what is it that you would like to maybe do? We see that on the one, there is like, I don't know, walk in the park or something like that. The 10 is very physically active job, being the in the military, like a lot of physical. So maybe you are at the point 3. Where do you want to go? And the answer is like the 10 is obviously not realistic for me. That's not an option. Like my first reaction was like, why 10? And so I'm trying to help her to see those smaller changes. That is what I assume that is like the underlying problem here. That self-compassion and so on. So basically, I'm thinking if I'm going the right direction to maybe push in that direction or not.
Thank you. That's a fantastic case study. I love it so much because it's bringing up so many struggles, client struggles, but also coaching struggles that are connected to the client struggles, right? So coaches, you're up. I'll weigh in, but I would love to hear what you heard. Where are you going to take this? Like, how are you going to help this client? So we have a woman who's a cancer survivor. She's in a lot of pain. She's experiencing aches. She's experiencing a lot of stress. She's very sedentary. The goal is to lose weight, to feel strong and capable. And the goals that are being set are kind of just not getting done because it's either all or nothing. My goodness, where have we heard this before? Everywhere. Anna, go ahead.
I coached my physical therapist.
Oh,
There we go.
sorry, my dear. That was, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. So I coached my physical therapist for 2 years following her treatment, twice a week. And she was always hungry for more progress and pushing and not coordinating the exercise right enough. We mostly practice Pilates and some other movements, things, balance and stuff. And so I was following her and pushing her harder all the time. Okay, let's get to this. Let's get to this. To help her level up, because that's what I saw her desire being. One day she said she reported having not progressed at all in 2 years. I mean, that was like maybe 1 year and 3/4. I was like, excuse me. So luckily, I had video of her trying to coordinate movements, and every move was like fearful and shaky and uncoordinated and lacking balance. And the talks that we had had about building her confidence and leaning into self-compassion over that 2 years, when she saw that video, she said, oh, I had no idea I was there. So she's a very athletic person. She's got 3 athletic kids. I mean, one's a kicker on a football team. You know, they're all over the place, off-roading. They do all kinds of things. The day she was able to run with the kids again on a hill and play in the sand was the day she started to recognize, oh, I can do things. So we started to really talk about what can you do that you weren't able to do before we started working together. And the other thing we started doing was tapping, because she had such a hard, there were so many goals and criticisms and things that were clouding her view that we needed to get her in her body. And when she went into,
help us connect this back to Danielle's client. So because I think we're picking up on some parallels, but spell it out for us.
so she needed help getting into her body, and yeah, what I finally recognized was I needed to be giving her more steady flow of highlighting those small wins, because she wasn't going to see them, have to highlight them, and I didn't, because I don't do that for me. And then talking about what the impacts are of keeping yourself busy and spread out and not good enough, and how that impacts, parenting, how that impacts wellness. I mean, stress is huge, and there's a reason probably that both of these people have cancer, is because they've been yelling at their cells all the time, and it's really hard for us to survive under those conditions.
I want to be careful about this link because that can turn into victim blaming a little bit. I'm definitely aware of the factors environmentally that can contribute to developing cancer. But here, what I want to highlight, Anna, about what you've been saying that I think is so powerful is that self-compassion, or compassion specifically here, and recognizing the wins, which is what the words that Daniel used. Recognizing our clients' wins is probably one of the only things we can actually do for them. Because you notice how we can't work out for them, we can't eat salads for them, right? But that recognizing and calling out people's wins is one of the things we can do. And sometimes I will very explicitly call this out because the tendency to not recognize your own wins tends to come out pretty early. People are usually very aware of it, right? Like clients are smart, they're pretty self-aware, and they will say, like, I, don't give myself credit. And I will sometimes say, like, I will do this for you. This is one of the things I can do for you. I will call these out, I will draw your attention to them, and it might be uncomfortable. You actually might resist. And it happens in a coaching interaction sometimes. They say, like, stressful week. I know I'm supposed to get the 3 workouts in, but I only got 2 in. And I will say, I'm sorry. You're telling me you had a really stressful week and you still got 2 workouts in? How'd you do that? That's impressive. Like, stop the presses. Like, I need you to, like, first of all, and it's interesting because they will often try and kind of undermine it and keep moving along. And I was like, no. Remember how I said that I will do this for you? So this is me doing this for you. I want to celebrate a really cool thing that happened here. And then we can dig in a little bit and how you made that happen in a stressful week. So Anna, thanks for highlighting it, the kind of taking this on ourselves for a bit, for a while, say, I can do this for you until you can, until you yourself can, because there are many things, most things, Daniel, that you can't do for her. Anyone else that wants to pop in with a suggestion?
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. James.
Yeah, with the pointing out their quote unquote like wins, you can even get their permission beforehand to do that for them. And then they'll have like an additional buy-in. They'll be looking for it. They know it's coming from you. Did I hear like during the story that she's not meeting her goals? Was that one of the, like, there are goals being set and she's not meeting? Was that one of the challenges? Or was it just not recognizing the progress she's making and being hard on herself? Or was it a both?
Daniel, do you want to clarify?
Yeah, it was both. It's
Okay.
like to be maybe more specific, I tried like scaling down the goals, but that's like that's not happening because that is too small to be working. So there is no that buy-in, and the big
Okay.
swings, so the bigger goals, don't happen because she's not ready, willing, and able to do them. Well, there is willingness, definitely. There is definitely willingness.
Are the goals that are being set like action goals that she can control every single day?
That's a big, or that's been a big struggle with me, for me with her. It's like the goals that we are trying to set that she can meet every day is getting nowhere. It's like
Daniel, so like, can you give us a couple of specific things that you have set with this person and they just didn't happen? I heard you say working out 2 to 3 times a week, 30,
yes,
60 minutes was not happening. Like, how did that go? Let's dig into the workouts piece as just a specific application.
Yeah, okay. So specific application was, of course, this was client directed, so it was not me setting goals for her. We spoke about, okay, she wants to work out even every day if she could, right? But there is no energy and so on. So I said, okay, so why not start maybe with 2 or 3 workouts? And she was up for that. And there are days when she can do that, but then she is like, if she doesn't do it in the morning, first thing in the morning, it's usually not happening because of work and everything else. So that's why if there is an opportunity in the middle of the day or whatever, she gets it done.
So
But that's
let's
like a
recap here.
chance.
So the client was actually kind of leaning towards working out every day, which makes sense, right? Because it's
Yeah.
on brand for this client. One thing I want to point out, like when we're kind of trying to talk the client off a ledge, which is what we would be doing here, right? It's like, okay, how about we start with, I would never suggest 2 or 3, because for someone like that, 2 or 3 is always
0.
it's always 3, and then it ends up being
Oh, okay, yeah.
right. So whenever there is a range with somebody who is all or nothing, and I actually have the same tendency myself as a client, as an exerciser, I have explicitly called it out to coaches where I said, listen, whenever you say 30 to 45 minutes cardio in my workout program, it's always going to be 45 in my head. Like my eyes do not see the 30. So if you want me to have that flexibility, put the 30 in, because then if I do more, I can do more. But I will literally never do 30 if it says 30 to 45. So for somebody who, like, we want to be flexible by providing a range, this is where the range kind of won't work because they don't hear the range. Why don't we go for 2 to 3? 3, got it. 30 to 60 minutes. 60, got it. Like that's what they heard. So this is actually where I would really advise getting super specific. So say 2 or 3,
Okay.
which one is it? Right? Is it 2 or is it 3? Let's decide. Let's make a very clear line. So I'm just looking at some comments here. Can we dig into the questions issue Daniel highlighted of scaling challenges down to a point they feel able to achieve it, but it ends up being too small or simple, such as the progress is so slow that there isn't motivation to buy in? Yeah, Charlie, that's a fantastic question, except here's the thing. Scaling something down to a point where they can achieve it, but it ends up being too small for progress, too slow, we literally never know that because they never do it. We actually don't know if the progress is too slow or too small. I challenged a coach once last year to commit to 10 minutes a day of working on their sleep stress management certification. If anyone has like looked at it or done it, it's meaty. There's like a lot of shit in there. It's a big, like it's a big cert. And it was a hard sell, I'll tell you, right? I mean, the coach trusted me, so I said, listen, let's just like place a freaking bet. Just humor me. Just humor me. 10 minutes a day, but every day. And we kind of went back and forth because they were saying like, well, what's the point? Like, what's the point? It's going to take me like 3 years to do the goddamn thing. Like, I just don't see a point. I said, just humor me, do it for a month. It took 2 weeks for her to come back and say, oh my God, I'm plugging away. I'm chipping away at it. I'm actually seeing the thing happen. But here's what's really interesting. What's really interesting with this approach is that you often have to be very explicit with a client. As I was with this coach, I said, listen, the hardest part is not the 10 minutes. 10 minutes is easy. The hardest part is doing it every day. And also getting your head out of your butt about how 10 minutes is not enough. That's going to be the hardest part. because your brain is going to go la 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 for the entire time about how 10 minutes is not enough and it's pathetic and it's stupid and what is even the point and like all the things. That's going to be the hardest part. So what I want you to do is make peace with the fact that that's going to be the hardest part. Expect for that to be the hardest part. And then literally watch for that to come up. As you pull up your thing or you start doing the workout, like just listen to the bullshit, right? It's like, here we go again. What's the point of 10 minutes? I'm already 1 minute in. This is not going to do a difference. But you notice how we're actually setting it up as an expected scenario, and they can kind of chuckle to themselves a little bit. It's like, oh, look at this thing happening that Kate said will happen. Because the alternative is that that same monologue is still happening, but we're actually taking it as true. Is that true? Oh, like 10 minutes of exercise is not enough. According to who? Said who? Have you ever exercised 10 minutes a day for a month? Ever? You haven't? Didn't think so. So how about you do it, you try it, you show me, and at the end of the 30 days, we can collectively decide, yep, waste of time, 10 minutes was not enough. Let's try 15. But until you have that evidence, based on what? It's just hearsay. It's not enough for me, right? Daniel, you're laughing there. You're smiling. Talk to me.
Yeah. I have a lot of things, and thank you for you. Thank you also for this question, which was really amazing, and thank you. I see also this comment that I never thought about. Some people thinking of a range like that. Like you pointed out, I'm usually meeting people who are like you say range 3 to 4. It's 5. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So.
And Daniel, one thing I want to point out here is that if you actually call it out to a client, that can be very powerful. Like, because when you actually say that, it's like, listen, when I say 3 or 4, I bet your brain hears 5, doesn't it? They will chuckle because it's true, right? So can we actually put it on the table and say, can we just not? Like, can we acknowledge that your brain will say 5, but you will override and you will commit to a number that we agree on?
Yeah, thank you. So the second thing, since this is being recorded and you had really great monologue here, will this be accessible?
Yes. Yeah, always is. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm not sure where to find this recordings from.
So there is a YouTube playlist where all the calls go.
Oh, okay.
They're usually then within like few days of the recording, like usually 2 to 4 days, you'll have the replay there.
So because I'm thinking that, also hearing these things from other people and so on, when I send it to client, it can be beneficial.
Totally.
So that's another thing. Another thing that I would like to mention is from this scaling down, what I've been thinking also, that sometimes we can have that logical buy-in, but the emotions can be, fighting with that. So that's what I was thinking about, this emotional, or addressing her emotions, how she thinks about this and so on, because what does it mean for her? What are the fears that she's not breaking? Like, what if I'm not training enough, for example, right? So what does that tell about her? What is the consequence of that? What is she afraid of? So dive deeper into those things.
Yeah, and exploring what those are, because I think very often when we break it down, really, it kind of comes down, well, I'm afraid that if I set small goals, it won't be enough for progress. So instead, I will set big goals that I won't do, which is not enough for progress. Oh, wow, great system. Okay, well, right? Like, maybe we know for a fact that setting big goals and not training is not going to give you progress 100%. Like, I can attest to that. It doesn't matter how aggressive your goals are. If nothing's getting done, nothing's changing. So you notice how we can actually pinpoint to the client, like, do you notice how setting a big goal and doing nothing versus setting a small goal and doing something? This is actually a better case scenario that is more likely to lead to results, because the results don't come from planning. The results don't come from the plans and the goals that you set. The results come from the thing that you actually manage to do on a consistent basis. Dana.
I just have a question that came up regarding this. You know, when you were talking about how, or actually even when Daniel was talking about how, you know, sort of setting these big goals, you sort of, there's no way for this person to actually accomplish it. Like, is this a way, or is there a way to maybe address or ask if like some people maybe do it because there's like, because you want to feel bad about them, because they want to feel bad about themselves. Like they set the goals thinking, I'm not going to do it. It's like almost like an addiction to beating yourself up for not actually doing the thing that you say you're going to do. Like, I don't know if there's room
So
for
let me
that, or
ask
like,
you this. And if it is, so what?
yeah, I don't know. I
Because
mean, I guess,
the reason I want to
yeah,
ask this, Dana, is because I think this is where there is a little bit of a line into psychologizing,
you're right.
right? And we can play with that line a little bit, right? Like, it can be helpful to understand people's like motivations sometimes. But I think
Right,
from the coaching perspective too, like, my job is never to help you figure out your childhood shit, right? Like,
right, right,
my
right.
job is to help you get shit
Change
done,
it.
right? Like,
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
actually move from like, oh, but I already know what to do. Okay, I know you know what to do. That's
Right,
not what I'm
right,
here for either, right? Like, I'm here to make sure you do the thing that you know you want to do and can do.
right.
So this is kind of the question, because like when I say, so what? I will sometimes ask clients that, because they're like, I just wish I knew why. Like, okay, let's just imagine that I can wave a magic wand right now. We're gonna combine freaking Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud into one, and I will tell you exactly why.
Why?
Now what? Do
Right.
you
Yeah.
notice how the behaviors are exactly the same, whether you
Right.
understand why or not?
Right.
So please do explore the why, continue reflecting on the why, continue working with your therapist, God bless. Meanwhile, we're still going to be working on the very actionable steps, which you're going to need to do regardless. It can be easier sometimes for some people to understand the why,
Right.
but at no point we need to wait or should wait until we figure out the why. Like, that's
Right.
the way to procrastinate, truly.
Right.
Like, that's where
Right.
I would kind of call you on it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it is really just about setting more realistic, not setting it at 5 times, but setting it at like the 2 times or whatever, something that they would actually do.
Well, I think that the implicit assumption there is that if we could only help clients figure out why, then like something would click and they would just do it.
Right. No, you're right. I mean, that's my own stuff, right? It's like I can probably tell you a million reasons why I don't do something or whatever. And it's like I can intellectualize things rather than just, do the thing, I guess. So
And
it's probably my projection.
we'll hear that sometimes, like, right? Like, I can tell when a client has been in therapy for 10 years and now they're starting to work with me. You can tell, right? It's like,
Right.
oh, I have trouble recognizing my own accomplishments because my mom, and it's like, okay, like, I like, high five, like, self-awareness is great. And the specific behaviors and habits that we work on are actually not that impacted by the big realizations they can be important, they can be gratifying, they can be rewarding, they can be clarifying in terms of like who you are in the world and how you came to be. I don't have such grand ideas about what I do. I really just want to help you do the thing. Uh, that's
Right.
it, right? Like, I just really want to help you do the thing.
Right.
So I think coming back to like Daniel's client, and I think where were we? Charlie was asking like, if they don't do it, where do we go from here? I think
Right.
that's a really important question because
Hmm.
this is where I would really want to dig into what exactly happened. So if we have figured out, like Daniel, you and I are working together, you are my client, and we've agreed that 3 workouts a week, not 2 or 3, 3. How long? 20 minutes. I also need to make sure that you know exactly what to do in those 20 minutes. It's not like just do some movement, or it's not, why don't you just pick one of the workouts on YouTube? That's not specific enough. It's more like 3 20-minute workouts, and here's the 3 corresponding links to YouTube workouts, right? Like there's literally no space to overthink, overanalyze, or create a place for a rabbit hole. Like I'm not being responsible for you getting stuck in YouTube rabbit hole for 7 hours looking for the best 20-minute workout. No. Like here's the 3. Now, if we're meeting a week later and those 3 workouts did not happen, I want to know exactly why they didn't happen. Oh, I just got busy. Cool. Let me know, what was the day that you were planning to do that workout? At what point? And then what happened leading up to it? Did you, oh, like I didn't really make time. I just figured I'll do it at some point. Okay, do you hear how that gives us something to like work on for next time? Because like, okay, so this time, let's make sure we actually stick it into a time slot, and then we're going to come up with a backup time slot. Like we're really start to troubleshooting and like micro looking at it. Charlie, how does that land? Because that was your question, kind of like you're thinking about the scenario, like we're shrinking the
Yeah.
goal, we're doing a thing, and then they don't do it.
I had a guinea pig client who kind of had this sort of situation, and I would say we scaled things down, and it felt like there was a lot of personal growth when it came to mindset, moving away from the all or nothing. They started identifying their own wins and things like that. And then out of nowhere, they just stopped and came back with just an immense feeling of overwhelm. Like they weren't even logging, I don't know, say that they were drinking their water. Like that was too much. And it kind of, when we started digging into it, they were just talking about how they look at pictures of themselves. Say their target was to be be the same weight that they were last summer, for example, or look the way that they did last summer, and that was what was motivating them. And then they said they look back at those photos now and remember that they didn't feel any better then, so what's the point? And it kind of just stumped me, really. And I think I'm struggling to reconcile what's being discussed here because it's so fixed on, well, the example feels very fixed around, doing your 10 minutes rather than doing 3 sessions. Whereas in my scenario, not to take the conversation in a completely different direction, it felt a bit more, well, it was even simpler than that. It was literally logging water, for example, and felt like there was a lot of emotion and stuff to unpack that maybe I wasn't necessarily qualified to
Mm.
do.
Well, I mean, Charlie, I think I agree. It's definitely a different example, different context there. The one thing I'll point out, my something went ding, ding, ding for me when you said, and out of nowhere,
Mm,
because it's very rarely out of nowhere. Like I've never seen a scenario where things like just out of nowhere take a turn. It's usually either an accumulation of many things that kind of comes to a head, or the out of nowhere is actually a really big thing that you don't know about for whatever reason.
yeah.
It's private, they don't feel comfortable sharing with you, who knows, right?
Mm,
There is something. So you can kind of explore what it is. Then you actually proceeded to say they saw a picture of themselves. That's our out of nowhere. It's not out of nowhere. That tends to be like a very clarifying moment for people where it's like, oh shit, right? I've been doing all this work and like here's this thing, and it throws everything into doubt. Right. And when people are saying, what's the point? This can be kind of a scary place for coach to hang out in.
mm,
But one direction I encourage you all to explore is going with it. So, what is the point? Maybe there isn't a point. You hear how scary that might be to say as a coach, right? But you actually kind of leaning into like that sense of opposition. And that in motivational interviewing, there is this tool that we use that's called exaggeration, where clients say, well, I've been doing all these things and I'm not really seeing results. And I don't know, I'm just feeling discouraged. Okay. And I can say, so Charlie, you're saying you've been doing all this work, you've been doing all the workouts perfectly, like with perfect consistency, and you're seeing absolutely no results. Do you hear what I just did? I took what you gave me and I exaggerated it, right? Like, and now you have to correct me because that's never the case, right? And now you're kind of in a situation where you kind of say, well, it's not that I'm seeing no results. Oh, now you actually have to explain to me that some of the results that you're seeing, right? So there is, I think, space for the conversation of like, well, maybe there is no point because you've been doing all these things and you're not seeing any changes at all. Well, I'm seeing some changes. It's just not as quick as I thought it might be, and maybe it's just discouraging because I don't know if I would feel the way I want to feel even if I was lighter. But how do you want to feel?
yeah, I guess it's that crossover. That's where I got a bit confused because that almost sounds like you're kind of unpacking what their why is, their motivation, which it
You
might
are.
not be me. Yeah.
You are. And I think you'll feel like it's like, ooh, like, are we kind of going into a weird space here? Well, if we're talking about like mental health, if we're talking about managing, um, grief or big events, I think you'll know when you're out of your element. But as coaches, if we are going to kind of run away every time emotions come up, we're not going
Mm,
to get very far because we're working with humans that are going to experience emotions, negative emotions, positive emotions. Positive emotions are very easy to deal with, aren't they? Oh, it's just like, yay, like we can all go rah, 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 like we can celebrate and high five. It's the negative emotions, really. When a client comes to you and say, I'm bummed out, I hate everything, I don't know what's the point of it, like, screw this. You're up, coach, right? So like what do you do with that? Like that's not therapy, that's just humaning. Your friend could say the same thing to you, your spouse, your parent, right? Like how do we show up in that space? And this is where some of the skills that you have as a coach will set you aside. Everyone here is better equipped to support their friends than somebody else just because you have those coaching skills. Daniel, what a meaty conversation this was. What a great case study. I so
Yeah,
appreciate bringing it forward. And I'm realizing we're like way over time. That's what happens when you're having fun. I hope I will see you all in our next one, which is, let me just confirm, same-ish time next week, 12 o'clock Eastern on Tuesday, and I will be hosting that one as well. So I would love for folks to be there. James, quick question.
It's the same Zoom?
It should be. I think it is.
Okay. I
Yeah.
don't know where I saw this because I'm not on Facebook, so I must have seen it in the academy or something. And I don't.
James, it will be the same Zoom as long as I'm hosting. So it will be different Zoom for a different coach, like Jeremy.
Okay, so next Tuesday at noon.
Yes, and the events are listed in your PN platform on the side, and the events are also listed in the PN Coaches Facebook group, which is where you will see them too.
Okay, thanks.
Well, I hope I'll see you there, and I hope I will see the rest of you there as well. Have a good one.
Thanks, Kate.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you. Bye.